Hi everyone, welcome to this sessions of Q&A with our mentors at Lidr. Today we are glad to be here with Alberto Betella.
Hello everyone, thank you for inviting me.
So he is the current CTO of Koa Health, which is a startup that spin out from the telco giant Telefonica, and is the co-founder as well of Lidr'S.com, which is a top player in the racing podcasting industry. And he was the CTO of Badi. He brought the company from zero to the first million users, and he was there to bring a millionary amount of money from a VC in order to grow into Europe. And here we will be discussing the questions for our mentors. So let's start. First of all, your favorite content and why?
Favorite content? Well, let's start with books. Perhaps my most recent favorite book is Angel by Jason Calacanis. Actually, I've read it a couple of months ago and it was recommended by a friend. I like it because it's about angel investments, but I would recommend it for everyone in the context of startups, because it talks about the kind of investments you have, right? The kind of roles you have, advisors, the kind of series you can approach from series A to bridges. So I think it's a must read. So that's my favorite book at the moment. Then podcasts, I would say there is an evergreen for me, which is a startup. It's a podcast about someone that created a startup to create content, which is Gimlet Media, and it started in 2015, I would say. And it was acquired by Spotify for a very reasonable, or very an exciting sum, actually, in 2019. So it's Gimlet Media, and the podcast is Startup. And yeah, I would say that if we talk about podcasts and books, those are my two favorites.
Great. What about your favorite working app?
That's easy. And they're always the same in every company I worked at, and even in my personal life. So one is Slack. I cannot live without Slack, because Slack is not only for communication but also integrations. So most of the tools I use integrate with Slack. So definitely Slack. Then Trello. I mean, I bootstrapped companies just using Trello, including the free version. So it's great. And last but not least, G Suite. So you have Gmail and all the documents. I think with Trello, Slack, and G Suite, you can create a company that reaches millions.
Another question, which is your reference leader, why, and what you learned from him or her?
That's a good question. So I think it's easy to look at Jeff Bezos or Steve Jobs and say, okay, those are reference leaders. They have pros and cons, but worldly renowned. In my case, I'm thinking about, sometimes I got asked this question before, and I would say that my reference leader and model in business is my dad, my father. I remember when I was very little, I think I was 3 or 4. He left his job as an employee and he opened his own business. And I remember the sacrifices. He was working a lot. I remember weekends where he had to work, but then he thrived. So I think he taught me that hard work opens you a door, and so increases your possibilities of success. So it's my father.
That's an inspiring story. For me, so it's also a family member. It's my mother as well. So I can really be identified with that story. It resonates with me a lot. What about the number one skill to become a successful leader in tech?
The number one skill to become a successful leader for every leader is empathy, meaning you feel into, you have to understand what the other feels so you can relate, and then you can improve and make your communication more efficacious. But perhaps in tech, the first one is you focus on people as much as you focus on technology. So to be a leader in tech, you don't have to focus only on technology, but also on people. And the second one is you need to focus on the future. A leader in tech needs also to think long term, not just to tomorrow.
Great. And what do you like most of being a CTO?
Mm-hmm. Good question. I would say the impact you can have in the business, meaning that your decision could determine whether a company is successful or fails. For example, in a moment of, I saw companies which were at the moment of peak, but the technology didn't handle the workload, for example, and that drove to big problems, including loss of potential opportunities in terms of venture capital coming in. So impact on the business.
Yeah, great. Tough question now. Which is the biggest challenge you have faced as a CTO?
When you have a key player in your team, someone who's a multiplier, who's a hub, and this person leaves, and this person leaves suddenly, that's a big problem, because my managing style is all about delegating and relying and trusting people. So it's not about trust, it's just when there is a surprise and you weren't expecting it, then you have really to tune again the entire organization. So sudden, let's say, resignation of a key player in your team.
Yeah. What did you learn from this experience?
Well, two things. The first one is that when you have a team, you need to be able to avoid bad surprises as much as you can. So you need to have people need to trust you and be confident that if they tell you something, you don't get upset or you're able to help them. So as a tech leader, you need to foster the growth of your engineers, even when you see that they want to leave and they need to change their job. If you convey this since day one with all your team, they will probably speak with you before leaving, which means you avoid my main problem, right? You avoid this surprise when people leave without telling you and you just are caught by surprise. So again, trust the relationships so that so you avoid surprises. And the second, which is also very important, avoid SPOFs, single point of failures, also in the teams. So this is an architecture, a system, a IT system principle that applies to people as well. You cannot rely on one person, and if this person is let's say leaves, you are in big trouble. This is an issue both in system design and in people organizations.
Yeah. No, actually, the CTO should be the first one to be not a single point of failure, right?
Absolutely. As a CTO, if you do well your job, you are in operations at the beginning if the company is small, and then you go to strategy more and more, maybe even in innovation, right? But your team works like doesn't need you anymore, and this is for me is a successful journey for a CTO.
Exactly.
When
Yeah.
your team doesn't need you anymore.
Yeah. So if you only have one single tip for aspiring or emerging CTOs, which would be?
Well, don't do that just because you think is the top of the ladder, of the career ladder. Don't do that for money. You need to do that because of passion. In the end, a CTO is not all the glitters is not gold, right? So you need to be sure that it's a vocational. It's a vocational if you want a profession, because it lies in between business and technology. So don't do it for money. Don't do it because you feel it's what you have to do to progress in life, but do it because you really want to go to step above, let's say, the threshold of a contributor, of engineer, of lead, and really get this holistic view of a business. So it's a business position. You have to like it.
Yeah, definitely. So let's jump into a technical question in your expertise area. And here, what I have prepared is that, well, I often interact with colleagues and other CTOs that are jumping into new ventures. And then one of the first questions they often get from the process, not only from the CEOs, the C-level, but also from the new tech team, the new members, is about the tech stack to be used. And what do you think about that?
It happened to me as well in the past, and I think this question, let's say, highlights a lack in technical maturity or in uh, technical leadership in the team, because the stack should be at the service of the business. So the stack comes after, right? What you need to do is having a vision for the business. Then whether you use PHP, TypeScript, Java, that's up to you, but later, even up to your team. Your team may be able to choose the stack, but you really need to have a vision for the business. For example, the first thing you would want to do as a CTO is understanding if the company and the team is data driven. So if you don't have a data lake, what you need to do is setting up a data strategy. So you create a data lake, and then you create another layer of data warehousing, because you know that in a year or so, you'll need business intelligence capabilities. So again, stack versus vision. Vision wins. Stack is, let's say, it depends on the business needs.
Right.
Then I would add another point. We don't have to follow the fashion, right? So if keep it simple in terms of tech stack now, okay? Don't follow the fashion. If there is the latest database that's very interesting, is a network graph database, you don't have to use the latest fashion in tech. You have to use what is simple and solves a problem. So for example, always focus on SQL databases if you can use them, rather than non-curated database or non-relational databases. And use as many managed service as you can. That's very important. Don't invent the wheel. If you start a company, you have a tech stack, don't build everything from scratch. If you have a managed service from a cloud provider and it works, use it.
Great. Great advice. Thank you. Thank you so much for your time, Alberto, and see you soon.
Thank you. See you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.